We are the One Story Podcast. We believe in the power of a story. Everyone has a story, and that story is meaningful. Your story can make a difference. Your story can inspire others. Your story is important. At the same time, ultimately, everyone's story is a part of one story, the big God story.
It's not what you said. You're not who you said you were. When are you alone? When will you come back home?
Hey fam, we're back with the One Story Podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. My name is Drew, and I'm here with
Isaac.
I thought I'd let you say your name for once.
Okay, let's do this again. I'm going to do it better.
Okay. I'm Drew, and I'm with
Isaac!
Dang, you ruined it. So we're here with episode 19.
What's up, Bia?
Big 19, 1-9.
Dang.
And we're excited to be here. As always, we thank you for who's ever tuning in right now, listening in, wherever you're at. We appreciate you taking the time and listening into the One Story Podcast.
Gracias.
How's your week go, man?
Actually, I had a pretty mellow week.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I
Not too bad.
finally got to rest. Last weekend, I was questioning my faith.
Okay.
I took a nice nap, and I was
Got
ready
refreshed.
to go. I was ready to go.
Good deal. Good deal.
But
So-
no, it was. I'm just happy to be here, and took a nap before. You know what? I just realized I'm a napper.
You're a napper?
I need a bunch of naps.
I don't.
to
I can't take
survive.
naps because I'll fall asleep for like 5 hours or something.
Well, I call that a sleep. I get those too, but you know.
Yeah. So we got Jimmy Johnson on the episode today. Jimmy
up?
J.
What's up, Jimmy?
Doing all right. How about you guys?
No, I thought you. Where's the other intro? Yo.
Oh, yo. Shout out to Scott.
That one's for Scott. So Jimmy, longtime friend here, grew up with him. We're excited to hear his story. I'm excited to hear it in full, in detail. But before we get into that, I got to talk a little bit about the game of baseball. Jimmy Johnson here is a huge fan of baseball. You'll hear in his story. But I was thinking the other day, I went to Chicago for work, and I went to Wrigley Field and saw a game there. Had a great time. I go to Angel games all the time.
Hold on. You went to a baseball game?
Exactly.
Mudsucker.
I know. Isaac's shaking my head. And then I started thinking about this.
What a traitor.
I'm at home the other day, and the Angels were playing the Red Sox, and Sox swept them up. But it's on TV, and my son, Nolan, he's like 1.5. He's just like excited about the games on. Like, I've never shown him baseball. It's never been on and he just has this big old smile on his face and like whatever he's saying. And then, I don't know, we're watching something else, and this is like an hour or so later, and I go back just to see what the score of the game is, and he has this look on his face with just like pure excitement, like mouth open, like, yeah, just so excited that Dad put the game back on. And I'm thinking, my son loves baseball.
We'll never have a good relationship. That's what you thought, right?
I was thinking, you know what? I think I like baseball. And I named him Nolan because
Nolan
Nolan Ryan.
Ryan.
He was my favorite baseball player growing up. So sorry to the baseball fans out there for the bashing.
We get one baseball player in here, and you're backpedaling. Really,
it.
Drew? Is this what we're doing?
I had to come to grips that I do like baseball.
You know,
See, I'm gonna be completely honest. I think the only reason why I don't like baseball is because I stunk at it.
You couldn't hit the ball. Oh no, you could
I
hit
had
it.
a good
You
bat. I just
play
couldn't
it.
field
Yeah.
the ball.
No,
you know, I'm a firm believer that your kids preach to you. So I think it's just Nolan
It was.
trying to get to Dad.
he
over here.
checked me. Big time.
I guess we'll have to go catch a baseball game. You know, it's just been an inside joke for us.
Exactly.
But baseball's
that
fun to
we
watch.
made outside on the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just
But
brought
no,
it in.
yeah, you go to a live pro game. I mean, even when we were in Salt Lake City and caught some of the Bees, Salt Lake City Bees, which is the Angels farm team, and saw some games there. So it's cool to be there at the park and
I
watching
feel like
it.
he did research for this podcast just so he knows some stuff.
Yeah. 3 outs and
Right.
5
I
strikes.
just want to thank Jimmy Johnson for changing the whole dynamic of One Story Podcast.
It doesn't change the fact of what football means to this podcast, but
Especially if you listen to the last episode.
we'll give a shout out to baseball.
No,
So anywho,
you know how near and dear football is to Drew Villasenor.
let's get into hearing a little bit about Jimmy J here.
Yeah, I'm excited because Jimmy is now the official sponsor of One Story Podcast. Jimmy's Jerky.
Oh, there we go.
You can order it at what's your website?
Wow, you don't even know the website.
Oh, we're not even prepared.
Well, I'm
Oh,
going to
man.
order right now. Go ahead and tell me.
No, go ahead and order at jimmy'shomemadejerky.com, and we'll take care of you, Isaac.
Nice.
Nice.
Excited.
I heard some really good jerk. Joikey boys.
And actually, my wife was saying that that it's moving, man. That people seem to like it. Getting some pretty good feedback via social media. So
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. It's
I mean, I was a little disappointed when you didn't bring any in, but
Right?
I was like the first. I didn't even say hi. I was like, "Hey, did you bring any jerky?"
Your hands are empty. What's going on here?
Yeah.
No, it's fun. It's something that keeps us busy. For
How'd you
sure.
get into
Nice.
that?
Oh, it's started with just as a hobby, something we like doing, I like doing, and we used it for a fundraiser for church for a missions trip, and it kind of snowballed on us from there.
Was it a fundraiser for you, like to be able to go on a?
Yeah,
Oh,
for
okay.
me and my wife Joy,
Okay.
to go on a missions trip in the Dominican.
Oh, okay.
It was cool.
What was it like out there? Or did you go?
It was
Okay.
I ended up getting
we
enough
didn't
money.
make enough money.
No one liked the jerky. So
So no, we ended up going. It was actually my second time going. The
Oh,
first
okay.
time was with my college, Biola. We went for a missions trip there for baseball. And
Oh,
then,
okay.
this
Did you
time-
play them?
Yes, but luckily we played the high school kids, so they weren't very good.
We just barely lost.
Yeah. But no, this time it's always a humbling experience going to a third world country and seeing kind of you come back and respect the fact you have a flushing toilet and running water and
Yeah.
doors on the house and everything. So it's definitely, if you ever have an opportunity, definitely jump all over it.
Okay.
nice.
Yeah, I've actually never been on a mission trip, so something. Next time you're going out to the Dominican, just hit me up.
Yeah, we'll pray for you.
We'll go. I don't do mission trips. No, so as you can tell, Jimmy Johnson is a baseball player and was somewhat successful, right? You played college ball at Biola University.
I did.
And
Well,
got
let's
drafted.
let him let him get into that.
Oh wait, I have to tell my own story.
Well, tell us a little bit about your baseball career.
My baseball career, I grew up kind of with Drew, with Isaac.
So when did we first meet?
We met at Garden Hill.
Garden Hill,
Right?
like opening night,
Right.
Or where
Kindergarten.
something to where I don't
Oh,
know.
wow,
It
you
wasn't
guys-
like back to school night. It was like, well, maybe it was just the first day at kindergarten.
So this is
Yeah.
elementary school.
Yeah.
Oh, kindergarten. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get rid of him.
So yeah, we were friends right from the get.
So yeah, we played baseball from t-ball all the way up until probably like 12 years old. So
I think I stopped after because my papa coached us, Papa Bernie,
yep, Royals all day
the
long.
Royals, and then
Sick.
he passed away in '94, and then Anthony coached after that, and then that was my last year. Because however junior or what was it association?
Yeah.
It wasn't Little League.
No, it was
Pony? What
So
is that?
I only went up to
LMBA.
Pinto.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I only went up to Pinto, so whatever, however old that was, and then that
That
was
suits you, Drew. That suits you.
Pinto, Pinto bean. So, anyways, yeah, baseball. I started in baseball. Go on.
So yeah, I grew up playing with Drew and doing all that stuff. Played in high school and was lucky enough to get a scholarship to go play at Biola.
The Eagles.
I know that sounds very Christian and holy, but I definitely was not. At
You're a
that
pitcher,
point.
correct?
Yeah, left-handed pitcher.
You could hit too.
Yeah, I hit all the way through high school. I
Yeah.
actually went to Biola because they told me I could play both. And then the first practice, he said, "Yeah, put the bat down. You're not touching that."
Well, you mean play both? Don't you? Doesn't everybody have to hit? Or
Well, I mean, if you,
Jimmy almost left. Jimmy, don't go. No, don't go.
it's just like, well, go ahead, you explain it.
No, in high school, sometimes the pitchers hit. In college, it kind of gets more towards like professional style, where there's a National League, American League, National League. Pitchers hit. American League, they don't.
Okay.
There's a
you kinda-
DH.
yeah, you kind of do a DH where that person hits for the pitcher.
I've heard of that.
So yeah.
Which means like the
Okay.
pitchers just specialize in pitching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little familiar.
Yeah, yeah.
Starting
So
to
in
ring
col-
some bells. Okay.
So in college, yeah, that's what I did. I was a left-handed pitcher. Ended up in 2008 being lucky enough to get drafted. And
By who?
New York Mets.
Oh, wow.
So I played for the Mets for 3 years. So it was a lot of fun.
What was that like?
Got a lot of stories. It's always great when you can wake up every morning and get to go play a game and get paid for it.
That you
So,
loved.
Yeah.
You can't complain at all.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Challenged me. I mean, I went from Garden Hill, which is a local elementary school in La Mirada, to Hutchinson, local middle school in La Mirada, La Mirada High School, obviously high school in La Mirada, to Biola College
Small
in La Mirada.
Christian college.
crazy.
So I never got out of La Mirada.
So when you got the opportunity, you're all, see ya.
yeah, when I got drafted, they're like, "Hey, we're sending you to Brooklyn." I'm like, "Where's that?" so
That's where you were based, or if you want to call it that.
My first year was in Brooklyn. Second year in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, which is a cool little town. And then my third year was in Florida. So it was nice. I got to see all of the East Coast, all
Yeah.
the way from Florida to Canada. So
Yeah.
definitely can't complain. Definitely a learning experience.
Wow, that's awesome. So growing up playing baseball, it sounds like, I mean, to reach that level, you had to be really involved, and I mean, that probably consumed you, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, probably just like you guys in football. I grew up where baseball came first before anything. Even if I came home and said, "Hey, Mom, I have homework," she was like, "We have baseball practice first, so we'll deal with the homework when we get home."
That's gnarly when your
yeah.
mom's telling you, like, that could wait.
I mean, I think in middle school, my parents put a batting cage in the backyard, full-on pitching machine. We had a hot tub just in case we were sore. I mean, seriously, it was baseball all the way. My sister, full scholarship in softball. My brother, full scholarship in baseball.
Wow.
So, yeah, we were baseball through and through.
Bred to win.
Did your parents play?
My dad played baseball all the way through college.
Okay.
So he was a catcher.
Linwood.
Shout out to Jimmy Johnson.
Right?
Jim Johnson. Sorry.
Linwood Knights.
That's it. Linwood Knights, the White Knight, was in the building. So, yeah, no, that's kind of my background. Was everything was baseball. Everything was if you were good in baseball, you were successful in life type deal. And it was, I got incentivized by my parents as, "Hey, Jimmy, when you throw 85, I'll buy you a truck. Hey, when you throw 87, I'll put rims on that truck." Like all the things I
That
wanted.
doesn't sound like a bad deal. I don't know.
Right? All the things
But you
I
saw it
wanted.
like accomplishing something, and then you get something.
Right.
Or
It
you
wa-
know, do
it was-
this, and then you get
It was
this.
if you're successful at something, at whatever tier that was, you get something in return materialistic. So that's kind of how I grew up, where, I mean, it drove me. We were at practice all the time. We were hitting after practice, always doing something. So, I mean, it definitely was a motivating factor.
Yeah. So your parents were pushing you. Like, how did that play into your relationship with them? Like, did you feel a lot of pressure from them, or?
No, I guess I didn't know anything different. I was the guy who, when we did play baseball or during a game, if I dove for a ball and missed it, most parents would say, "Hey, good try, nice job." My dad would be like, "Why run all that way and not catch the ball?" Like so it was always challenging, and
That
that's kinda-
dad.
yeah, oh yeah, and that's how my family is still to this day. You go and you get beat up a little bit verbally in the house if you say something wrong or stutter on your words. And so it was kind of, we were always competition, always trying to make each other better. And that's kind of how I grew up.
That was the family dynamic.
Right.
But I mean, I was over there quite a bit, and it wasn't. It was good. Like,
Oh, no,
that-
without a doubt. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
We-
It was like you guys had a fun family to be around. I mean, your parents, your mom and your dad just make you laugh, and it was a good time.
Oh yeah, I could tell you stories for days with Drew. We'd go pick up, my mom used to drive this big Chevy truck, a long bed, the works, right?
Uh-huh.
And we'd go pick him up, and Lisa would come out, and we'd pick him up for football practice. I did play football a little bit.
You did, yeah.
We'd pick him up for football practice, and Lisa, Drew's mom, would come out and be like, "Drew, put your helmet on." He'd be in the back seat of the truck with a helmet on, sitting in the back.
She knew how Julie was going to be driving.
Oh, yeah, head bouncing off the window. It was good. It was good. So we definitely had fun. I don't want it to sound like, hey, I was locked in a room,
No, no.
got to
Yeah,
get out to
yeah.
play baseball. That
No,
stuff.
it was good.
Nothing.
Well,
like
it
that.
sounds like you enjoyed it though.
Oh yeah, we had
like
a
you're
blast.
saying, it was a good competitive aspect to that.
and it's kind of how we we interacted with each other. It was like our
Through
conversations were about baseball, and it taught us how to interact with other people, team atmosphere, things like that,
Yeah.
things that we use in life. So it was definitely good.
So it sounds like your family was tight.
Oh yeah, we did everything together. It was, you had to be, when you had 3 kids playing travel ball, it was, you were in the car with each other all the time, driving to different fields, blah, 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 all
Right.
that stuff.
So your relationship with your siblings, or what's that like?
Yeah, we're close. It's harder now. You know, sometimes you grow up and people move away. My sister, full scholarship to Ohio State, never came home.
Oh, wow.
So she comes home to visit and stuff, but
Yeah.
she lives in Ohio full time. My brother went to Fresno State on a scholarship, never came home.
wow.
They, again, comes home to visit, but we see him maybe 2-3 times a year.
I mean, you went to
So-
college too and stayed home.
Yes.
Well, I'm right.
I went to college and then stayed where I went, but I lived at home during that time. But no, we had a good childhood. We had, like anybody else, we had bumps in the road, things you don't plan for that, you know, test you and things. And if you want me to get into it, we going into high school, we lost my mom at, I want to say I was 14. It's kind of a transition, kind of like Richie's story. And I want to say it was episode 13 or something like that, where he lost his parent right going into high school or in that transition stage. And I kind of had the same thing. We all were on the same team for football, and we were like in the middle of,
I think it was like going right in.
right into when the season was going to start or something. And yeah, we lost my mom to leukemia. So
wow.
it was one of those things that hit us pretty sudden. Went
Yeah.
into remission twice. So you kind of celebrate it. Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, man.
And every time it came back worse and worse. And I mean, that was 18 years ago. So they didn't have the medicine that they have now. type
How long
deal.
was she battling?
For years. So she went into remission twice. So it was definitely a long fight. It was something, you know, it's weird to try to see your mom at one point, long, nice hair. And then I had short spiked hair with gel in it. And I came in one day and she's got short hair. She's like, hey, can you spike it for me? And I'm like, sure, Mom, I'll hook you up. And so
beautiful.
stuff like that. And there's stories I have now, but at the time it was like, I didn't have Christ in my life. We were the Christians that went consistently on Easter and Christmas. So it was we called ourselves Christians, but weren't like fulfilling or living that life out. And so it was definitely a time where I don't want to say lost, because I had a lot of family and support around me, but I didn't understand why, I guess. I mean,
And did that, I mean, you're young, you know, and obviously it had a huge effect on you, but were you able to process it at that time, or was it?
me and my wife talk about this a lot because she lost her mom also at a young age. And so I don't know that I ever processed it. My family was kind of like, we were so busy in baseball and other things we had going on. It was like none of us really sat down to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, so even talking to you guys now, it's like, oh, this is a soft spot I don't want to talk about. But
Well, I appreciate you sharing with us.
it's something that a lot of people go through, and a lot of people, men in particular, you know, don't feel comfortable opening up or dealing with things that that hurt.
Right? Yeah.
For sure.
And for me, I kind of shared with a couple people that when it first happened to me, I didn't quite understand everything that was going on. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. My dad, me, my brother and sister, we were young. I was 14. My sister was 16, 17. My brother was 10. And we're all sleeping in the king size bed. My mom at this point was in a hospice, and my dad was with her. And he came home to spend the night with us that night, and he gets a phone call that my mom had passed away, right, from the hospice. And they told us, hey, you guys need to come down and, you know, see your mom. And I was like, I don't want to go see my mom. Like, that's she's gone. Like, why would I want to see that? And they were like, no, we don't, like, you need to make the kids come. And so we all get in the car, we drive down there, and when we walk in, it's in a room, her bed's right in the middle, and she's like laying on the bed facing us. And when we walk in, I see her laying there lifeless. She's passed away, and the sun is like lighting up her face, and she had a huge smile on her face. And like, now that image is engraved in my head, but at the time it made no sense to me. I was looking at her like, why is she happy? Like she's not with us anymore. Like, I don't understand why how is she happy? Right. But now looking back at that situation, it was like, I see points in my life where God's like, hey, I'm with you. Hey, I'm here. I know it's a hard time, but I'm here. Right. At the time that didn't click. Right. So,
wow.
It's definitely something that changed me. I wouldn't, anything that happened in my life, I wouldn't change because it made me who I am today. And that's how God works. And that's why I get excited when you guys started One Story Podcast, because our stories are what molded us into the people we are. And to be able to share those with other people is it's awesome.
Yeah. Every part of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pain, the hurt, the stupid decisions, it makes us who we are now. And the fact that we kind of talking about this, the fact that we're all three here at this table and talking, it's just it's awesome to where we are now, you know, and it's a testament to God's grace and his love for us.
Without a doubt.
So that day, like after, like you're saying, from that day, you kind of changed, like your life changed.
Yeah.
What was that something inside of you? Did you, well, obviously you lost I mean, because the football team went to the funeral, and I remember, matter of fact, I think I was sitting with Gersey, and me and Gersey were a mess because you kind of put yourself in your shoes, and saying, what if I lost my mom?
Yeah,
because your mom is definitely. I mean, my episode was heavy. It was heavily based on my mom, and like how I missed her and loved her and all that stuff, and just by thinking like, man, like that, it's just hard to it's hard to imagine,
Yeah,
and I can imagine how that must have been.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words sometimes. For me, I was a mama's boy. My dad and my sister was older, so she was playing travel ball. So it was like my mom had me and my brother, and my dad was running around with my sister going to games. So we were all about my mom, right? And so now when she was taken away, it was like you sit back and you're like, why? Like, what's going on? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, me and my dad have a relationship. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's an awesome father, taught me a lot, made me who I am. But it's like, at that point, I was like, no, my mom's everything. Like you can't take her. Like, I don't know what to do, right? And it's like, now I look back at it and you're like, wow, that really made me grow up fast. It really made me look at things differently. But at the time, it was numb, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely never talked about it. I definitely never, I remember getting an award for most inspirational, I think, on that football team. And I was like, what does this even mean? They give me an award because my mom passed away? Like,
right.
What did I do? Right.
Well, you kept on going, man.
Right. And that's, again, I kept going, but it was numb. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't process it.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's something that you don't, like you were saying, like you didn't know when you saw, you're like, what is this? You don't know how to process it. Because it's not supposed to be like that, you know? And at a young age, I mean, you probably haven't dealt with a lot of death at that time.
No.
I mean, even me as an adult, like I still haven't dealt with a bunch of it, I've had some grandparents that passed away, but there are people that I didn't have like a great, wasn't like super close to them, but I've had someone in my life that I've lost, and it's you don't know what to do with it, And I think that's where God kind of plays that part, because he can. I mean, if you're willing to, like you're saying, talk about it, even if it's just in prayer, you know, and really try to give it to him, is when you can really start trying to process it. But like you were saying, you guys were going to church only, Christmas and Easter.
That's it.
So your relationship with God wasn't really there.
Right. There was no relationship. It was more religion. Hey, we go to church these days. Or we started when she first got sick.
But she started getting a relationship with God.
We started going to church, and for us kids, it was like, okay, we got to go hang out in this high school room. Half the kids are sleeping in there.
But for your mom, it was a connection for
for
her.
my mom and my dad, it was a connection. Like, my dad tells the story, and you guys are killing me. I can't. But my dad tells the story that the night before, she lost verbal, like, communication, I want to say a couple weeks before she passed away. So he would still go constantly and obviously sit with her, talk to her and stuff. And she would like grunt or try to make motions, right? 'Cause she couldn't
Some
talk.
kind of communication.
Yeah. And so he could see she was fighting throughout the whole thing. And he tells us that he prayed for her, said, God, you need to take her. She's a fighter. She's not going to leave. And that next day is when she passed away. So they got to a point where they were believing, they knew who God was, and they were having that relationship that I currently have now, but at the time,
You didn't see it.
it didn't make sense, right?
And they, yeah. Because I remember that, and because our families were close at that time, and Isaac, you brought up the funeral, and I just remember how hard that. I mean, I'm saying hard for me,
Right.
but for you guys, I couldn't even imagine. But the strength that I saw from your mom and your dad, and then, like you're saying, you saw that smile on your mom's face,
Yeah.
because she was going,
Right.
to see Jesus, and it was,
Yeah.
it was happiness at that point for her.
Yeah, now looking back at it, it's like, okay, it was God confirming that we know where she went, right? And I think that's a question you always ask yourself when you lose someone. Hey, what was their relationship like? Or are they in heaven? Am I going to see them again?
Right.
Or, because, I mean, we can say we know, but do you really know?
Yeah.
Right?
Until you're there.
Right. And that image tells me, in my mind, hey, she's there. I get to see her. She's with me, right? All that stuff. So
That's your faith.
Yeah.
That image is
Without a doubt.
where your faith is coming from.
without a doubt.
That's powerful, man.
And
because
you guys weren't supposed to make me cry, so listen.
No, dude,
I'm sorry.
I appreciate you opening up about that and hearing that story. I think I remember hearing that about your dad and that prayer on that night, and man, it's just
Yeah, it's heavy.
It is.
When you look back at it, it's definitely heavy. It definitely stuck with me, and until I encountered God the way I encountered God, it really didn't make any sense until then.
What was that?
So how did you get to that point?
What's
I
funny is I ended up going to Biola playing baseball, right? Private Christian school. And I remember the day I got admitted, I went on a trip with the baseball coach, and I bring my transcripts and everything. And the admin office is looking at it, and they look at the coach and go, how bad do we need him? And the coach goes, well, I need him. He goes, all right, I'll get him in. So they get me into Biola. I literally got coached on how to take the interview to get into Biola. Okay, they're going to ask you, what did God do for you? And you're going to say, he died for my sins. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking notes. Like, right? Because I just didn't have that relationship, right? So I took a lot of the situations that God put me in for granted. Like, so through Biola, going to chapel, all that stuff, I was present, but not there.
Yeah,
not
for sure.
listening. I heard it, but not listened to it.
Understand.
And so I got drafted in 2008 out of Biola, went and played baseball. I actually got drafted with a guy from Azusa Pacific that played against for 4 years. And so we get drafted together, and every Sunday he'd come up to me in the clubhouse and be like, hey, Jimmy, chapel's starting right now. They're bringing a guy in to do a message for us. So you're coming with me because I know you went to Biola. And I'd be like, okay, but you don't know. I went to a different Biola than everybody else.
There's this little side section over here.
Yeah. So
They put us in a special part of the school.
right. So I'd sit there and listen, and I'm like, okay, like that was cool. Like they'd bring in firemen or retired firemen, police officers, like
To
guys,
talk to the team or the
to
chapel that was going on?
Yeah, to do like a little devotional with
Okay.
us every Sunday, or whatever team had their own chaplain, they would come in and do a message, right? So it was good, but I didn't get anything, right? Maybe it wasn't my time, God's timing, whatever it would be, right?
It sounds like there was some kind of disconnect.
Yeah, and
Like,
it
did
might-
you believe that Jesus was a real person at that time? Like, did you even believe that? Because I think sometimes people have a hard time just accepting that, and that can make the whole God thing even more far fetched.
Right.
So sometimes
And
it's
I don't know if I believed or didn't believe. I just didn't.
More indifferent.
It wasn't relevant to me, I guess. Like, it wasn't something that I even thought about.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? I would kind of
For sure.
go because he would invite me every time. And he was like, no, you need to be there because you went to Biola.
and it wasn't
okay.
completely foreign to you because you had been to church.
Yeah, I've
you
heard
know.
the stories. I
Yeah.
heard all this stuff, but it wasn't like touching me every time.
for sure.
So at this point, my wife, kind of like Gursey, wives always bring you back. And we weren't married at the time. We were dating. And
Let's talk about Joy real quick.
Oh, jeez.
Which is an awesome story. You're married to your high school sweetheart.
Yeah, we met sophomore year. So I want to say a year after my mom passed away, we met.
Okay.
I think our first conversation was I wrote a note on my paper saying, "Can I copy your paper?"
For like a test.
What class? What class?
It was definitely Spanish class.
Oh, how
Shout
funny.
out to Mr. Miller.
Mill dogs.
So,
Not Sizemore.
so yeah, right.
John.
So we, at that point, she was going to this church called Freedom House. They were in Brea, and she was.
This
telling-
was fast forward to
Yeah, like we.
you guys
wanna
met
talk
in-
about high school?
No, 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 no.
What happened?
You met in high school and you guys dated all the way throughout.
Yeah,
and then
we dated through high school, dated through college.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, we had been dating for 8 years by the time we hit graduating college, and they're like, "Are you going to get married?" Well, no, I'm going to New York. She's staying here. Like, that doesn't work, right?
Okay, so now we're back to
So yeah,
or
we're back
baseball
to where I'm
and-
playing
and-
baseball.
Sorry, I just wanted to get
Eh.
the timeline. That was good. Straight.
And she's calling me every weekend. "Oh, this church is amazing. You gotta come." And I'm like, yeah, okay. We'll go to church.
What'd you
Right?
think of that?
Now looking back at it, I was probably like, okay, that's kind of a waste of time. Why you go into that?
But you
thing?
never
Like,
verbalized that.
no,
to her.
I never verbalized it to her. I was like, yeah, sure, babe, we'll go. Sounds awesome, right?
But you're in New York,
But
so
I'm in New York, so I could get away with saying that. Yeah. She'll forget by the time I get home, right? And
This is just a phase.
Right.
It'll pass. It'll pass.
so I end up breaking my jaw in a freak accident on the field.
Oh, wow.
What happened?
It was a bar fight, and someone.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
On the
sounds like an embarrassing story
sounds
that
like,
you don't want to.
sounds like beer league,
Right?
not minor league.
Long story short, I was sitting in the bullpen. I was a relief pitcher at the time, and there's a foul ball hit in a bullpen. So I get up out of the way, and there was a pitcher warming up, and the catcher threw the ball to the pitcher, but the pitcher saw the foul ball coming, so he got out of the way.
And then that hit you?
Yeah, the ball the catcher
You
threw
were
hit me in the jaw.
You were dodging a ball and then got hit by another ball.
Right, exactly.
That is
So-
freak. That is a freak accident.
Yeah. So, and it broke my jaw. My wife says it was the best time in her life. I was wired shut for 4 or 5 weeks and on Vicodin. So she was like, Jimmy was awesome back then. He didn't talk, didn't do nothing.
Our relationship really flourished
Right.
at that point.
I really feel like we got into a new level of our relationship.
So I came home and started going to first I got a job with AT&T at a retail store. And I remember before I came home, just on the phone with her, feeling that same numb feeling when I got released from baseball. Like, I know nothing else. Like,
Because
I don't-
everything you've been working up towards
it
in
was
your whole life
yeah,
was baseball.
baseball my whole life. So when I got released, I remember calling Joy just bawling, crying, bawling. Like, babe, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't do anything other than throw a baseball. Like, how am I going to provide for us? How are we going to have kids? How are we going to have a house? I know nothing. Right. And she was like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. God will provide this and that. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, that makes no sense to me, right?
Sure.
And so I come home, I get a job with AT&T managing a retail store. So I was working every weekend. So she's still going to church, and I would like kind of listen to messages on podcast as I'm driving to work, just so I can say, oh yeah, I listened to that. Like, she's like, yeah, did you hear that part about this? Oh yeah, that was awesome. Right. Like, and I got blessed at a time where I didn't know it was a blessing, but I got an opportunity to move to a different side of AT&T, and it made it where I only worked Monday through Friday. So we started going to church.
There was no out now.
Right? Yeah, I had no excuse. So we started going to church together, and we ended up getting married by our pastor there, and she ended up signing me up to serve. Right, I was the guy who would go to church, walk out, see you later. Right. Like, don't talk to me, keep my head down, type deal. And she finally signed me up to serve. She said, "Hey, I signed you up to usher, and there's a meeting tonight, so you're going." Like,
it's one way to get into it.
All right, let's do this. So I started ushering, and I remember service. I was still kind of there, but not there. Like, pastor would say messages, and I'd be like, my eyes were watering, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I feel like every message he was just talking to me.
Okay,
And-
so you were feeling the conviction.
And yeah, I was feeling a little bit, but I couldn't like put it into words or understand it.
And were you? It's not like you were against it because
No.
you were there. You've done
Yeah.
chapel and all. Like you were there willing. It's just you didn't have this
You weren't
connection.
feeling it.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
didn't sink in
For sure.
Like,
Gotcha.
like nothing. Like I heard it, and it. To be honest, to me, I look back and I'm like, those are just good stories,
Like,
right?
it didn't feel real.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
for
It was
sure.
like, okay, we can sit and tell stories all day long. Like,
The good moral.
it didn't
And that's
hit
what a
me.
lot of people actually think about the Bible and Jesus. Like, oh, like there's just like a moral, like they're like moral stories that are myth or legends or something like that. You
make,
know,
make
It's
you
like-
feel good,
Yeah.
type stuff. Yeah.
Right.
And I remember a service I was ushering, and at the end of it, pastor calls everybody who was serving down to the altar stage, and he just starts praying for people. And I'm an usher, been ushering for like 2 months, and people are like falling out, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I don't understand, right? And he gets to me, and he starts praying for me, and there's a lot of stuff like I've already talked about with my mom passing away, and things like just doubt in my mind, like I know nothing but baseball, all this stuff. And he prays over me, Jimmy, you just need to let it go. And I don't know what about that sentence, but I broke down. I just got crushed, right? And he was like, Jesus went all in for us. You need to go all in for him. You need to let it go. Let him deal with it. And I just wrecked me, right? Wrecked me. And from then on out, I'm like, Joy, we need to go to church. Like, I don't know what that feeling was, but
I want
You
more.
got filled
I-
with the Holy Spirit.
yeah, I need to get back, right? And now we've been at Freedom House for 7.5 years, serving for 7.
So it was just at that
was-
moment. It sounds like, from what it sounds like to me, like you were consumed by the Holy Spirit.
yeah, definitely. got hit.
And then did you at that point like start like, obviously that's where your relationship started with God, but like what was that what was that like? I mean,
For my
trying to
relationship
find-
with God,
Yeah,
or-
yeah, like with Jesus, like
It was definitely a learning experience, like any relationship, like trying to learn how to communicate. Like, because there's still times where I'm like, dude, I need to really pray about this. And I feel like I'm talking to myself sometimes, you know,
Instead
like,
of just praying.
right. Like, and I feel like I've been in church for a while now, and there's times where people are like, oh yeah, God really spoke to me. And I'm like, I hear nothing. Like, I don't hear the audible,
Right.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
Jimmy, you need to do this. Hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get that. But I do at times get in a quote unquote prayer closet, and I'll have,
is it a walk-in?
I say, right? No, mine's the gym, but no, you get in your prayer closet and God will just like download something to you. Like the most recent one was, I just had this feeling that me and Joy needed to start doing a marriage devotional before we went to bed.
Nice.
Right. So I come home and I'm like, Joy, got this feeling that we need to do a marriage devotional. So I ordered one on Amazon. It should be here in a couple days. And she's like, that's funny because I have that same feeling. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that was God. Right.
Mhm.
But
That's how me and Drew's relationship is.
Right?
But Drew, I
Drew,
got
we need this
And he's
devotional.
like, me too.
This pre-podcast devotional.
Right. Yeah. So that's
No,
kinda-
that's awesome because those are those like confirmations of, God working or
Well, he's speaking to you. And
Yeah,
then when she's like, oh, I'm feeling the same thing. You're like the same pull, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, God's speaking to both of us.
Like,
and
okay, he's got us,
it's-
right? We're in the
it's
right
crazy.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, I don't want to make a misperception that after that moment everything was flowers and grand and great. Definitely wasn't. I think it got harder when you make that decision and you start
Yeah.
being at church all the time, every Sunday and Wednesday, and start doing things for God. Family starts going, what's going on? Like, you're going to church an awful lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. You end up having different battles that, for me, I didn't expect. Like, I didn't expect family to be questioning me or things like that. People that are close to you, I think, affect you the most.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
them-
mean, the Bible talks about Jesus is a he
Divider of the house.
and he'll cause division. Even within family, close friends, and that kind of thing.
yeah, and I mean, now 7 years later, my aunt's going to church, my dad's going
That's
to church. My stepmom raised her hand for salvation a couple weeks ago.
That's sick.
And it's like all those battles were worth it now, looking back. But at the time, me and Joy would shout out to Christian wives and godly women, because she would definitely someone I could vent to, and she's like giving me godly wisdom through situations where I'm like, they just don't understand. Like they're judging me and this and that, but.
Well, that's cool. It sounds like she was walking you through your faith, like, well, walking with you, but kind of like.
Yeah, she was definitely. She grew up in private school and went to church all the time.
Okay, so
and she wrote my essay to get into Biola. So
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
She had that
that's
background.
what I heard. That's what I heard.
Well, that's cool. And so now, where are you guys at now? You were talking about missions trip. How were those? You said you went to the Dominican.
Yeah, the first one was when I was at Biola, so I was in a different place, right?
Right.
I went there. I went to the Dominican to play baseball for Biola, right? Like, we called it a missions trip because to graduate Biola, you have to go on a missions trip. So
That qualified.
right?
So the second one was with
The
Freedom
second
House.
one was with Freedom House. It was with a organization called One Nation One Day. So they go and bring in, I don't even know how many teams. I want to say probably 10, 15 teams of big groups of people, and they put you in different parts of the country. So they took over the whole Dominican, and then
And then you just start playing ball.
right?
It's just tournament.
I was just throwing splitters the whole time. No. And they get the president involved, and they get rent out every stadium in the country, and they do like a evangelist night. So they have worship and
Like a
so-
crusade or something
Yeah,
like that.
so
Uh-huh.
like our church was one of the stadiums.
One of the sites
Oh,
or
that's
whatever.
Yeah, so we went on that, and it was
that pretty awesome?
Just a humbling experience to see when people are open to God and the Holy Spirit, like how much God can affect people, and just I mean, having an open heart is one of the biggest things. Is
That's what he
being
asked for.
open to it, right? So, just seeing that was just humbling, and be like, man, I need to be on fire like that. Like, it
Yeah.
is definitely.
Did it strengthen your faith being there?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
There's moments in my life I can point to and tell you now. One was that image of my mom that, hey, God telling me, I'm here with you,
Yeah.
right? Dominican was another one. Watching him move and work and those people was another one. There's been many moments where I know he's
Let's hear him.
with me.
And that's kind of
Yeah, let's hear him. Give me one. Give me one good one.
I might be competing with Isaac's time right now.
but that's kind of, I think, because I've kind of talked about this in my stories and with Cuba and stuff, like just sometimes you need that, at least for me, because I don't hear an audible voice from God, and there's sometimes an impression of you feel something when you're praying or whatever you're doing, worshiping, but there's those times where God reaches out to you, and kind of it's that same thing. And I think I might even said that, where God just said, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I care. I love you.
Yeah.
And I like everything that's going on with you. Like, don't worry, I got it.
Right. And I'm definitely a hard-headed person. Like, I got to be told like 2 or 3 times, and then I'm like, okay, maybe that was God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's situations where I've been prophesied over, or if you believe in the Holy Spirit and all that stuff, and I do, where I've been prophesied over, where when I first had I have 2 kids, JD, who's 2, my son, and my daughter 4, Jordan. And we had Jordan the first time.
It's James Dean, though, right?
It definitely is James Dean.
That's
the third.
awesome.
The third.
Oh, are you? So that your
Yeah.
name?
I'm a junior. Yeah,
Jimmy, James.
I wanted to call.
I didn't even know.
I wanted to call JD Trey. Joy told me I could. So, something about him being
Wives
Trey.
always have to ruin the
Right?
fun.
I was like, that'd be awesome if his name was Trey Johnson. And she said, no, it won't. So I got shut down. But when we had our daughter, I remember being in the ultrasound and the nurse is doing it, and she's like, you want to know what it is? And we're like, yeah. And she goes, oh, you're having a little girl. And I'm like, no, you need to double check. Like, we want a boy so bad. Like, you need to double check. And I remember being mad. Like, no, God, I want a son. Like, I want a legacy. I want all this stuff, but never told anybody that. Like, me and Joy talked about, hey.
Oh, because this was your first. Okay.
Yeah, this was our first,
okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, no, I want a legacy. I would like, no. I mean, I think all men think that way. I want a legacy and all this stuff.
A little
right?
bit in there, yeah.
And so, like, a couple of years later, we're at a men's retreat, and our pastor's praying over people, and he gets to me, and he says, Jimmy, I don't know why, but I get the feeling I have to tell you, you're going to have a legacy. You're going to have sons, right? And it, again, crushed me, right? And I come home and tell Joy, and she's like, sons? I don't want 2 kids. We don't need 3, right?
Or 2 more.
And so the following year, she ends up being pregnant, and we find out we're having a son, and it was like, okay, God, like,
Did it make it real? Did it make it more real?
It's like everybody around me was like, please tell me you're having a boy, because if you're not having a boy, this ain't real, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, like all these situations together, it's like, how did I not come to him sooner? He was with me the whole time. How did I not come to him sooner? Let's do a walk-off.
We got that. But so it sounds like you and your wife are really doing this walk together, really just, leaning on each other and just following Christ. Like how's he doing? How is he leading you? Like, what's the path look like that you guys are walking down?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, we do everything together pretty much. And it's awesome because I see single people kind of battling, oh, I'm struggling with this. And me and Joy kind of work it together. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So she's stronger in some areas and I'm stronger in some areas. And it's kind of the whole, lack of a better way of putting it, the 2 becoming 1.
No, it's real.
We're definitely one, operate as one in the church. I mean,
sure.
With that said, she directs the greeters, I direct the ushers. So we do 2 different ministries, but we definitely have our ministry together. And within our church, we do a lot
Direct. I'm going to have to change my title at my church. I'm going to be director of ops.
Right? It just sounds so much better.
I don't like ops lead. I'm going to do director.
I keep trying to get rid of the director title. No,
A little too much.
Right? But no, we do at our church, we do a lot of what we call connect groups. So they're groups throughout the week after that are based off of the Sunday message, but in a smaller group. Either there's family connect groups, there's young adult connect groups, there's me and my wife do a grieving connect group because we both lost our moms. So it kind of gives people an opportunity to get connected to people in the church, and also opens up that door to let people know that we're all going through roughly the same thing, all fighting kind of the same battles or similar battles.
Yeah,
because that was my biggest thing when I first started going to church, and Joy said, hey, you need to go to this men's connect group at this pizza place. I'm like, really? I don't want to talk about my feelings.
What a legit place to have,
right?
Oh
yeah,
a
pizza
men's
place.
group.
That's it, right?
Oh, that's sick.
So they got this pastrami pizza.
Where's this?
Unreal.
You can't tell you the secret.
Yeah.
Come on. All right,
Place
after
will be
this
packed.
podcast.
Offline. Sidebar.
You got
Shut that place down.
You got like 5,000 followers on this podcast. We can't be announcing this.
Where's it at though, really?
It's in La Habra.
What is it?
It's called Pappy's Pizza in La Habra.
Where's it at? I need cross streets.
He can't
La
give you
Habra.
the secret.
It's on the corner of Google and search.
I'll send you the address.
Google and search.
No, but then we went to that Connect, or I went to that Connect group, and it just hearing other men open up. It gives a platform for guys to open up. I'm the type of guy that I don't want to talk about my feelings. I don't want
I'm the
to
same
do
way.
that, right? And it makes you feel
Hold on,
comfortable.
guys. I got to tell you how I feel right now.
Oh, jeez.
Unload on us.
It makes you feel comfortable. It creates a setting where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy's going through this. I'm going through something kind of similar, and it lets you open up. And once you open up, I believe that gives God the opportunity to move in and work on that situation.
Well, I
and work
think
on
not
that
feeling
spot.
alone is huge. Because when you feel alone and isolated, you start to feel shame and guilt and all that other negative stuff from whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah,
And
you
it-
don't know
and-
how to process it right.
and it can like make you step further away from God or
Right.
further away from healing
Yeah.
and moving forward.
And that's to me the things that have happened in my life. We won't get into it because I'm getting close to Isaac's time. But there's
All right, Jimmy, it's not that bad. It's a good hour 38.
So, but there's been times like I lost my job recently right before Christmas, and that community is what kept me going. Like, kept me worshiping God in a time where I should be running the other way. And, being connected, having those friends. I think of the book, and I think it's Mark, or the story of Mark, of the paralyzed man that had the 4 friends that carried him on his
yeah.
bed
That's
to
awesome.
Jesus, right?
And set him
Dug-
down through the roof.
Right, dug through the roof.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you study that, the roofs were all made of dirt and straw and all this stuff. So
They had to dig
you,
through that.
you have to get your hands dirty, right? And
Not only
to
that,
do
getting
that,
him up on the roof,
right?
and
yeah.
then
you have to.
just the whole thing.
I want people that I'm connected to that are willing to get their hands dirty.
That's sick.
I don't want them to look at my situation with some white gloves and say, "Dude, you're messed up."
Like I would help you,
Right.
but just
Like-
not with that.
Yeah,
if it was if it was this, you
right?
know,
Like, and community to me, having
just doing that walk
that,
together.
that group that, hey, I'm going through this, and I know you guys are willing to take off those white gloves and get down and dirty, lack of a better word,
to be in it
go
with
through
you.
it with me.
Right. I've brought this up a couple times. Well, I think 2 weeks in a row, but about when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and when he had Peter, James, and John with him to lament with him, to be with him, and when he was suffering, when
Yeah.
he was begging to God, and he needed his community, his
Yeah.
disciples with him to take some of that pain with him, or
Without
at
a
least to
doubt.
be somewhat comforted in that moment. So and that's what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
in a community group, if you're going through something, you have these group of really close friends that have the same values and perspective
Same
and
vision,
believe.
same,
Yeah.
And on that note, it's Jesus had 12 disciples, right? And in that garden, he only took 3.
Yeah.
As you get higher up, or as your responsibilities grow, or things
They were the shot
grow,
callers. That's
yeah,
what
as your things grow or you get higher up, your circle has to get smaller. There's some people that aren't called to go where you're going. There's some people that are gonna have conflict with you when you get higher up because they don't want to go that high, right? They can't reach those levels. But you're called to something greater. So Jesus knew what he was called to, and he knew only those 3 could handle where they were going, right? So he had to make that circle smaller.
Because he
So
definitely did have the inner circle with
Right.
Peter, James, and John.
Right.
Although all the other disciples, I mean,
I'm
they
not
were,
putting the other disciples
well,
down,
right, exactly. But you're just talking about, there
Yeah,
was
I'm
something
just-
else there.
Well, there was that one guy.
I'm just talking. you
Judas.
have a-
I mean, he's questionable.
You got a group of friends, but we all know in our group of friends, there's some people I can lean on, and
Yeah,
there's
I got you.
others that we can have those boy conversations
More on the
but
surface
not-
level.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got a surface.
That's why I
level
never
we
called
can-
Drew into bind.
Right,
Exactly. I won't answer.
send you straight to voicemail.
No, but that's a good point. And then also I was thinking about when you were talking, and maybe this is just obvious, but you guys have that connection, the community at church, which meets on a Sunday morning,
Yeah.
and then maybe there's a midweek. But the Connect group, you're going to have those connections, more intimate setting with different people that you're not going to get that same, or even diving into the message, you're not going to get that same thing on a Sunday morning.
No, and that's what's awesome about it. I mean, we've had multiple ones at our house, and people come in and you start talking about the message and they give us they kind of map it out for you.
A little guideline.
Yeah, they go do like a brief summary of the message.
Well, don't tell your secrets.
Oh,
Supposed to make it seem like you know what's going on.
No, they give you a brief outline of the message, and then they have a couple like open-ended questions to get people talking,
Mhm.
right? And it's amazing how God, when you open those doors, God really opens people up. I mean, even myself, I don't like talking, but yet I'm here on a podcast talking about
for
myself.
almost an hour.
Right. so it's
Speaking
like,
of which, we're gonna go ahead and have to start wrapping this up.
right. So yeah, community is huge. It's the only way I've been able to continue to do what I'm doing for God and
For
to
sure.
glorify God through it. And I've heard it said before from other people that, you know, I'm connected so much that I am at the point in my life where I have to lie to a lot of people to go back to the things I was doing before I got saved. Like, because if I don't show up to church, there's people going to text me,
Mhm.
hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
What's going on? You know what I mean?
There's
And
that
now I gotta-
accountability.
right. And now I got to make something up of, oh yeah, I'm sick, or,
Mhm.
you know, like there's that accountability without being in your face accountable,
Mhm.
because you have that connection with people. They genuinely care about what you're going through. And
That's a good point.
Know that God's working through you.
And it's not, and I think it's for people who don't quite understand or might think like, what, you can't do it without other people, you know,
Mhm.
you can't just like be a Christ follower and not have, you know, and need people to be with you in that. And
Mhm.
like, well, God calls us to be a part of the body, you
Mhm.
know, which is the church. And that's, and what does it say? Like the body can't work up without the hand or the arm, you know, and just
Like all the parts of the body, we're all a part of it,
To be able
and
to
it
function.
can't all work without
Without the other.
everyone. And
Yeah.
so that's what the idea of being in the church, corporately the church, or your local church community,
I
or
don't
the
like
people
word
that you're.
corporately. Let's go ahead and take that out.
Well, there's the world, the church and the full world, but
We can edit, right?
yeah, well,
Incorporate.
if you don't like that, you can edit it out. So, but yeah, you're right. So like, and that's what. And then we've talked about it too. The church can get messy because
Yeah.
it's people, and we screw it up a lot. But that is the way that God decided to do it, was
Yeah.
through people. I mean, he could have done it any other way, and
For sure.
probably might have been better another
Yeah,
way
right.
than using us screw ups. But that's what he decided to do, and through people across the table, at the table, is where those connections happen, and God's love and grace can show through.
Yeah. And I know all three of us go to different churches or have
Drew
different-
doesn't.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. But so we all go to different churches, and our pastor kind of does the same thing. He'll stand up there and be like, I'm the first one that probably shouldn't be on this mic because I've done this, whatever, right? And we're all human. And that's where people get hurt, because they automatically think because you're involved in church or because they're the pastor, they're perfect.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Put them on a
There,
pedestal.
put it- yeah.
Right. We're all there to be perfected. We're not perfect,
Mhm.
right? So
The road
and-
to it.
right.
Mhm.
And that's where people can get hurt, because if you're expecting perfection, you're going to get hurt every time.
Mm.
Like, and because
Yeah.
I can say that my wife's pretty perfect. No, she's got problems, right? But
We got quiet. We're like, oh.
I was waiting to see where you're going with that.
they both rolled their eyes at me. but no,
I just pushed the mic away.
but you go in there knowing, hey, yeah, my wife's awesome, but there's still things she does that like rub me the wrong way, right?
Mhm.
And communication is what gets you through that, right? And church is the same way. You go in there expecting perfection. There's things that are going to rub you the wrong way, but communication and knowing that God's speaking through you in that relationship gets you through it.
And that's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians. He's talking to the church in Corinth, and and that's like the first thing he said. Like, this is your goal your mission is to keep on evolving.
Yeah.
is to you're sanctified through the sacrifice that Jesus was. You know, God, it was the Father's sacrifice, was Jesus, and through that you're already sanctified. However, to be not to be saved, because you're saved by faith, but I forget the way he said it, but essentially he's calling the church to keep on getting closer to God through relationship and keep on transformation, essentially. And that's our life, throughout our life, from when we believe in when we start to follow God, Jesus is to continue to transform and to become more like him and
Yeah.
to follow him closer.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I believe that if we're not being stretched, we're not growing. It's like working out. If you're not sore or you're not breaking down the muscle,
If you're not suffering,
it's
yeah.
not growing.
Yeah,
right?
because if you're not
And-
suffering, you're not. We're going through that at church right now, and if you're not suffering, if everything's great, then what do you need God for?
right.
You know, it's like-
and to me, you could say suffering, and they're like, "Oh, being Christians, I'm suffering." No, that's not. That's not
like
like
that.
what we're saying.
Yeah.
But it's being stretched, being put out of your comfort zone, and things like for me doing this, like,
Or for me doing this, or us doing this, you know?
I actually really wanted to do this.
But like for me, you hand me a baseball in front of 10,000, no problem. I got no nerves. But hand me a microphone in front of 10,000 or in front of you two, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right. But you go out of your comfort zone. One, like you were saying, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
You're helping other people, and two, you help yourself grow in Christ, in trusting Him. Your faith grows, and all that stuff. So
Powerful.
Yeah. I was thinking of when you were talking about the Dominican, and then my trip to Cuba was the same thing. Like, we were going to bless other people, but I mean, the blessings that I received and our groups received
Right.
was it's amazing.
it's crazy.
And it's only by taking a step and going out of your comfort zone. Because I mean, when am I ever going to just decide to go to
Right.
Cuba and do something like that?
It was the first
You know?
time I actually prayed for someone. Was in the Dominican,
Oh, that's sick.
and it
Oh,
was
really?
like
Yeah,
stepping
you know what? Me
out
too.
of stepping out of that comfort zone, right, and praying for someone, and then watching them like go into tears or something. And
Wow.
I'm like stepping back, like, well, what did I do to him? You know, like, but it's not me.
And
Yeah,
realizing
it's the
that's
Spirit.
God speaking through
Right.
you.
I just
Yeah.
opened the door, right,
Mhm.
and God, you go in, right.
Mhm.
That's it. And I think we can surprise ourselves a lot if we just step out of our comfort zone and say, hey, God, I don't know all what I'm doing, but you've said, hey, go do this, or
I'm trusting you.
Yeah, like this situation. Drew shot out a text, and I'm like, all right, God, we'll see what happens, right? And if you do that enough times, you end up.
We actually just didn't have anybody. We actually just ran out of people to.
Dang it. I feel so loved in this group. They ran out of football players. So we had to-
Call up the baseball.
Right. All right, we'll go to the second sport.
No, that's good, man.
I like it,
I really,
for sure.
I really appreciate you coming on and all the things you shared with us. I think people out there, whoever you're listening to, can really gain from the things Jimmy's talking about, and just highlighting, all the stuff that you went through with your life, and loss, and then even the loss of baseball, you can call it that,
Yeah.
and then where you found God is just something amazing, and He made that whole, and the relationship that you enjoy have in your family and your involvement with the church and just helping others, discipling others to just really to lean into God and put trust in Him it's a great testament to what God can do for us.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's powerful.
Yeah, and it's definitely all him. Like I said, we just open the door and he does the rest.
I do want to just bring up one thing. You had talked about, you were given a word about leaving a legacy, like having a legacy, and though you do have it through your kids, through your son.
Yeah.
When you said that you have people in your family that are, giving their lives to God,
Yeah.
that was only I don't know if it would have happened or wouldn't have happened, but
Right.
the fact that it kind of seems like you opened that door to them,
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
that's a legacy.
Yeah.
Because that's you made disciples of Jesus, of
Yeah.
them, and they might go out and do that eventually, and so on and so forth, and expanding. That's your legacy.
Yeah, and
We will go and we will be with God and we will be forgotten, but that will live on forever.
but the fact that they're be with us now because of something
Yeah.
that we did, or we opened a door, it's something that blows your mind when you think about it. And it's more touching because it's your family.
Yeah, dude,
but it happens
strong.
when you sit back and look at it, and God looks at each and every person that same way as we look at our family. That happens every Sunday at a lot of churches across the country, and it's funny because Joy, when we opened up our new building at the church, she wrote under the stage, our pastor had everybody write people that they're praying for, and Joy wrote family members' names. And now, 2.5 years later, we're
showing
seeing
up.
those people come into the chairs
Again, just
raise
God
their
showing
hand,
you
right?
there.
And it's just like,
Wow.
wow, okay, God,
I love that, man.
I guess I'll trust you with everything because you kind of know what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? Better
That's
than
awesome,
I do.
man.
Amen.
So it's good. It's good.
All right. Well, I think we'll close this thing out. Again, like I said, thank you for being here. And yeah, this is just really good time.
Yeah, I was
Good
really
time to
happy
talk.
that thank you for coming in and sharing your story, man. You really got, we're putting stuff out there that you said that you haven't really, it's hard to talk about,
Right.
And so I do appreciate that. And for sure, I think it'll have impact on people who are listening. So.
I appreciate you guys having me, and let's just pray it out, right?
Pray it out.
Go for it.
Good? You good? All right, Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity, these doors that you open. I pray for Isaac and Drew and just the endurance and wisdom you've placed in each and every one of them to step out of their comfort zone and start this One Story podcast. I pray that you stay with them, give them wisdom, guidance in their decisions with this podcast on who to have on and where those conversations go. I pray for every listener here today, God, that you just be with them, dispatch angels over them, anoint them, soften their hearts, and I pray they got something out of this, Lord. Whatever it is, small, big, whatever it is, God, that they grow closer to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.